Okay, so tonight we're going to look at the work of Nisargardatta from the book I Am That. The questioner says to him, wait, let me put on my reading glasses, I'm sorry. The questioner says to him that he's been moving around from ashram to ashram. And Nisargardatta says, what is the purpose of your moving from place to place? Questioner, to meet people, to try to understand them. Well, what people are you trying to understand? What exactly are you after? Integration. Well, if you want integration, you must know whom you want to integrate. Questioner. By meeting people and watching them, one comes to know oneself also. It goes together. Nisargardatta, well, it does not necessarily go together. Questioner, one improves the other. Nisargardatta, it does not work that way. The mirror reflects the image, but the image does not improve the mirror. You are neither the mirror nor the image in the mirror. Having perfected the mirror so that it reflects correctly, truly, you can turn the mirror around and see in it a true reflection of yourself. True as far as the mirror can reflect. But the reflection is not yourself. You are the seer of the reflection. Do understand it clearly. Whatever you may perceive, you are not what you perceive. Questioner. Well, I am the mirror and the world is the image. Nisargardatta. You can see both the image and the mirror. You are neither. Who are you? Don't go by formulas. The answer is not in words. The nearest you can say in words is, I am what makes perception possible. The life beyond the experiencer and his experience. Now, can you separate yourself both from the mirror and the image in the mirror and stand completely alone, all by yourself? Questioner, no, I cannot. Nisargardatta, how do you know that you cannot? There are so many things you are doing without knowing how to do it. You digest, you circulate your blood and lymph, you move your muscles, all without knowing how. In the same way, you perceive, you feel, you think without knowing the why and how of it. Similarly, you are yourself without knowing it. There is nothing wrong with you as the self with a capital S. It is what it is to perfection. It is the mirror that is not clear and true, and therefore gives you false images. You need not correct yourself, only set right your ideas of yourself. Learn to separate yourself from the image and the mirror. Keep on remembering, I am neither the mind nor its ideas. Do it patiently and with conviction, and you will surely come to the direct vision of yourself as the source of being, knowing, loving, eternal, all embracing, all pervading. You are the infinite focused in a body. Now you see the body only. Try earnestly, and you will come to see the infinite only. Questioner. The experience of reality, when it comes, does it last? Nisargardatta. All experience is necessarily transient, but the ground of all experience is immovable. Nothing that may be called an event will last, but some events purify the mind and some stain it. Moments of deep insight and all-embracing love purify the mind, while desires and fears, envies and anger, blind beliefs and intellectual arrogance pollute and dull the psyche. Questioner. Is self-realization so important? Nisargardatta, without it, you will be consumed by desires and fears, repeating themselves meaninglessly in endless suffering. Most of the people do not know that there can be an end to pain. But once they have heard the good news, obviously going beyond all strife and struggle is the most urgent task that can be. You know that you can be free, and now it's up to you. Either you remain forever hungry and thirsty, longing, searching, grabbing, holding, ever losing and sorrowing, or go out wholeheartedly in search of the state of timeless perfection to which nothing can be added, from which nothing taken away. In it, all desires and fears are absent, not because they were given up, but because they have lost their meaning. Questioner. So far, I've been following you. Now, what am I expected to do? Nisargardatta, there is nothing to do. Just be. Do nothing. Be. No climbing mountains and sitting in caves. I do not even say be yourself, since you do not know yourself. Just be. Having seen that you are neither the outer world of perceivables, nor the inner world of thinkables, that you are neither the body nor the mind, just be. Question. Surely there are degrees of realization. There are no steps to realization. There is nothing gradual about it. It happens suddenly and is irreversible. You rotate into a new dimension, seen from which the previous ones are mere abstractions. Just like on sunrise, you see things as they are, so on self-realization, you see everything as it is. The world of illusions is left behind. Realization is sudden. The fruit ripens slowly, but falls suddenly and without return. All self-concern a symptom of is a symptom of mental disturbance, which disappears as soon as one is in the normal state. Questioner, if you could tell me what I shall become, it may help me to watch over my development. Nisargardatta, how can anyone tell you what you shall become when there is no becoming? You merely discover what you are. All molding oneself to a pattern is a grievous waste of time. Think neither of the past nor of the future. Just be. Well, how can I just be? Changes are inevitable. Changes are inevitable in the changeful, but you are not subject to them. You are the changeless background against which changes are perceived. Is there any particular place you would advise me to go for spiritual attainment? Nisargardatta, the only proper place is within. The outer world neither can help nor hinder. No system, no pattern of action will take you to your goal. Give up all working for a future. Concentrate totally on the now. Be concerned only with your response to every movement of life as it happens. Well, what is the cause of this urge to roam about? There is no cause. You merely dream that you roam about. In a few years, your stay in India will appear as a dream to you. You will dream some other dream at that time. Do realize that it is not you who moves from dream to dream, but the dreams flow before you, and you are the immutable witness. No happening affects your real being. This is the absolute truth. Transiency is the best proof of unreality. What is limited in time and space and applicable to one person only is not real. The real is for all and forever. So, any questions, any comments? What did you hear? What did you take from this? Let me read one paragraph again. All experience is necessarily transient, but the ground of all experience is immovable. Nothing that may be called an event will last, but some events purify the mind and some stain it. Moments of deep insight and all-embracing love purify the mind, while desires and fears, envies and anger, blind beliefs and intellectual arrogance pollute and dull the psyche.
There's just such a clarity about
Mm.
the points that he makes. It leaves no doubt about the authenticity from where he speaks, because it's just, when you hear those words, it just has a ring of truth to it. A wisdom, I guess, a self-knowing.
He says, all self-concern is a symptom of mental distortion, which disappears as soon as one is in the normal state. He means your natural state.
What
Well,
was
I
the
find
first
it
one?
easier to,
I'm sorry?
I find it easier to understand if I interpret what he's saying to mean you are present awareness.
Yes, that's what he's saying.
But it, I just have to, how do I say this? I guess as my authority, it's Krishnamurti. And he puts things in such a way that I can understand it. In fact, the basis of almost all of his teaching is on a basis of understanding. And with that understanding, you can approach seeing the difference between what you are, that is the present awareness, and what you think you are, and that is the self, the ego, the me. And what I think Krishnamurti is, what I think Nisargardatta is pointing to, is that as long as you live your life through the me, you're not yourself. You're not being what you truly are. You're
Right.
being a product of that conditioned consciousness from which your thoughts arise, from
Right.
which your thinking comes from.
Right.
I think that's what he's saying in a very eloquent way.
Yes. Yes.
And he offers pointers to how you can live your life other than through the me. Right? Well, the things that you just read were pointers. The paragraph that you read before that,
Which one was that?
the one you read a moment ago, you said, let me read this again.
He makes it seem so simple,
Mm.
but it's not.
Yeah.
Well, I think what he said in the beginning, when he says, he compares, when he talks about the mirror and the image in the mirror, he says the mirror reflects the image, but the image doesn't improve the mirror. You are neither the mirror nor the image in the mirror. Having perfected the mirror so that it reflects correctly, truly, you can turn the mirror around and see in it a true reflection of yourself. Now, the mirror he's calling the mind. True as far as the mirror can reflect. But the reflection is not yourself. You are the seer of the reflection. Do understand it clearly. Whatever you may perceive, you are not what you perceive. And the question is said, but I am the mirror and the world is the image. And he says, you can see both the image and the mirror. And that's true, right? You can see, when you witness, you're able to witness the mind and that which the mind is perceiving.
But it depends on how you're seeing.
What do you mean?
If you're seeing through the I, through the me, you're not seeing what is.
No, that's right. He
I
says,
think that- Does he say that? I didn't.
well,
catch
he
it.
says, the nearest you can say in words, I am what makes perception possible.
Okay.
The life beyond the experiencer, the me, and his experience. Now, can you separate yourself both from the mirror, the mind, the experiencer, and the image, the experience in the mirror, and stand completely alone, all by yourself? By yourself, he means the self with a capital S. Can you just be that witness, just pure awareness without the me? Because you are able to see the mind. There is an awareness of the mind, and there is an awareness of any experience that you may have and that the mind will create. He's saying that which is able, that's what makes perception possible. And that's what you are. Are we able to separate ourselves from the me and from the experience and witness both? Without identifying with either. Without identifying with this me, this mirror, or the experience, the image, the event that's reflected in that mirror.
That's the advanced course. Not successfully most of the time. I mean, I get glimpses of it and I understand what's going on, but to be in a perpetuating state of being able to separate, stand alone, not process what right now I'm processing it through the me. My words are coming out of the me. What the most that I've been able to get to is being aware that I am in a dualistic mode and that it's coming from my consciousness and that the consciousness is conditioned. So at some point, I can get somewhat of an understanding that the joy that comes from not being this way is not always there for me. I don't know. It's very difficult to explain because there really is. I mean, you at some point you really understand, or at least I really understand, that the words that I'm using and so on and so forth, they're limited, they're conditioned, and the significance and the importance of that arises when I'm upset, when I'm emotionally, when I'm psychologically upset.
Right.
Not the rest of it. That's the difficulty about some of this stuff, is that you can talk about getting rid of the me, but you can't. You need a certain part of it. You need a certain part of it which is mechanical, which is not psychological,
Right.
which is informative. So
Yes.
you got to be very careful when you say you got to get rid of the me. You've got to have an understanding of what the me does. It's the understanding of that me that it serves two purposes, in a sense, that mechanical, practical knowledge that we need to survive and to live amongst each other. And then that other psychological part, which has been screwed up since time immemorial, and is the crown around our neck that we bear, and we have to get an understanding of it.
Right. The me that we're trying to put a pin in is the psychological me, that which lives either in the past or projects into the future. We're not talking about whatever tool we need on a day-to-day basis to live in this reality.
But we have to have but to me, it seems like you really have to have an understanding that both the practical, let's say the practical mechanical
Okay.
part of the me, that's you gain that, or that's put in there the same way that the psychological is. It's from experience. You learn, you experience, and then it's recorded in memory. And then you resort to that memory for thought. So they both put in there, put into your consciousness the same way. But I think you more or less have to look at what's happening. You don't have a problem with 2 and 2 is 4. I have a problem when my neighbor's dog pisses me off in the middle of the night.
Right.
I think when we're thinking about it, like when you're in the now and you're just doing, you're walking and you're looking at nature, you're not thinking about it, you're just doing.
Right.
And it's after or before when you're anticipating the walk, or you're back and you're then thinking about the walk, is what we're talking about in the me.
Right.
But as you're doing, we have to do in life. Otherwise, we wouldn't be, so we have business to do, but if we can keep it, I think, more simplified rather than analyze. It's when we start analyzing and thinking about assessing it, that's when we get into more trouble, I think. I think that's what he's saying.
Yes.
Yeah. And,
Yes.
And,
Right on.
And Ugo, to make it very simple, all this is about is when your neighbor's dog in the middle of the night is causing a disturbance, how will you meet that event in the present moment?
Right.
That's
Right.
all he's talking about.
Right.
You can either meet it reflexively from your conditioned self, or you can meet it in the moment from your unconditioned natural state of being. And as far as I can gather, what he's saying is most of the time, from the latter point of view, there will be a huge measure of acceptance into what's happening.
No resistance.
No resistance. That's right. That's not that complicated. And he's saying that all we can do is to try and just be in the moment. And when my conditioned self intrudes, to be able to see it non-judgmentally, to be choicelessly aware, is the term Krishnamurti used, of my knee-jerk reactions to things. That's why he keeps saying, don't go anywhere, don't become anything, just be. Just be in your natural state. Now, of course, for him, that natural state is so well-founded and he's so rooted in it that it sounds simple when he talks about it. But for us, it seems like a huge mountain to climb because we're so addicted to our conditioned ways of reacting. And we're much more familiar with that than the ground of being that he's trying so hard to describe.
Right.
But when you listen to his words, I think the natural self in all of us seems to hear a wisdom or a truth in what he says.
Yes.
And that's what calls you back home.
Yes. Yes. So maybe maybe a good idea would be to start with very practically not disturbing the peace, the inner peace. So we go through life, we do what we have to do, and we're relatively peaceful. We're just doing. And then the dog barks, or a bill comes that's unexpected, or something worse. And then how do we meet it is the question. How do we meet that? Are we meeting that with holding on to the fear or holding on to the anger? Or are we meeting it with an awareness of what's happening inside? And we've decided we are not going to live our life disturbing the peace. And we want to let go. We want to pull the plug.
I just wanted to inject a moment here.
Oh, just I have to,
Not,
I'm
not,
sorry.
not to mix us up too much here, but I came across a quote the other day from Rumi that I thought was especially poignant. Somebody's.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. We're hearing, all right, I'm gonna mute. And you know what? When you want to speak, perhaps you could unmute. That may be the best way to do.
In trying to convey what responds in us when we hear certain things that Nisargardatta says. There's this quote from Rumi. Sometimes you hear a voice through the door calling you, as a fish out of water hears the surf calling, come back. This turn toward what you deeply love saves you. And I thought that's what he's trying to get also by honoring that feeling that you get when you hear him describe something that sounds so true and wise, like all experience being in the mode of the changeful.
Yes,
While
yes,
the
that one.
background is the changeless. That
That's-
background is what calls you.
Yes,
What is calling you to be at these
Yes.
meetings? What
yes,
calls you to read about this stuff?
yes, yes. And I think that's the longing
Mm.
that, we try to meet that longing in different ways. We try to meet it through relationship. We try to meet it through our work. We try to meet that through addictions. We try and meet that longing, and we don't understand what it is we're longing for, truly. But when you hear words of wisdom, suddenly there is a calmness, because you've heard the truth. And now you've connected to that which you're fundamentally longing for. And it is to come home, to go back home.
Mhm.
And that's what Rumi was saying here. Come back home.
I think that in that state, if I look at myself, I relate to it in that when I hear something like that, I think it comes from accepting it. There's an acceptance of what's being said. And
Yes.
that my agony, and I have, when I'm being agitated, when I'm upset, and so on and so forth, most of the times it's because I'm fighting what is.
Right.
I don't want to accept what's happening. That goddamn dog, I'm going to shoot him in the ass, I don't
Right.
want to accept it. And the fact is that, when I get over the upset, and of course now with all the stuff, it takes a lot less. I realize, I said, hey, wait a minute, that's not going to accomplish anything. It's going to wake up the neighbors, and then there's going to be a big to-do and this, that, and the other thing. You just close the window or turn the other side, go to sleep.
Hugo, I don't think though that operating from acceptance doesn't mean that I don't do anything. I think it just means that I don't react impulsively or thoughtlessly. If the neighbor's dog is barking at 3 o'clock in the morning, I may have to calmly get on the phone and call the police or
Yep.
call the neighbor if I'm on that kind of terms. That's an operation of intelligence in the moment.
Yep. That's not operating from anger.
That's
That's
right.
right.
Because the first instinct with me would be anger. So I have to
Right.
deal with that anger first. And then
That's
you're
right.
absolutely right. At some point, well, I'll either call the cops or I'll call the
Mhm.
neighbor or,
Yeah,
I'll do something. I'll take positive action instead of reacting to my anger.
that's right. That's,
Not to confuse things too much, but
yeah.
how does free will fall into all of this?
Ah,
I mean, do you have the free will to even make these decisions?
well, that's an interesting question because at the highest level, at the ultimate level, there is no free will because,
So Ugo has no choice. He will call the cops or he will shoot the dog. It's not really under his purview.
what you might say that whatever decision that comes through him is literally coming through him. Because if we say that all there is consciousness, all there really is awareness, and that we are instruments through which awareness, consciousness streams, then fundamentally we are not even the doer. And we're, like they say, you think you're living your life, but you're being lived. So if it occurs, now I'm going to call this neighbor, or now I'm going to call the police. That's what occurred at that moment. And we think it's our choice. But I question whether it really is.
It can't be when you really think about it, but it's just
Right.
so difficult for us as egos to grasp that. I mean,
Right.
it's awful.
Right.
Anyway, I
Well,
probably shouldn't have went there.
well, I think we even have to think about free will or not? Isn't the most important thing to have clarity in the moment so that we respond, as he said here, not with anger and with fear, but with wisdom, with clarity. And is that not the most important thing for us? And is that not the way we fundamentally want to live our lives? Just to
Yeah.
have clarity in
But
the
as
moment.
Paul said earlier, if you think about the decisions that you make each and every day, it gets to be so complicated that you can't really make a decision. I ran into this earlier in the week at work, and I looked at it, I said, well, I made a mistake. Should I pay for the mistake? The deeper you look at it, the more you're stuck with no way to really move forward, because you realize that everything is preconditioned to some extent, and you end up just thinking I should do nothing. And that's really not the way to deal with it. Like Paul said about the dog, yeah,
Right.
you could just do nothing and say, okay, I dealt with it.
Right. Or what we can do is try and look at the facts of the situation as clearly as we can, as objectively as we can. At that point, it's really taking the me out of it. Take yourself out of this. Whatever decision that you think you have to make because you're faced with a situation that's difficult. What if you pretended it was somebody else's situation and you had a distance from it and you just looked at the facts of what the actuality, the actual what is of the situation?
But even facts are pretty mushy when you really look at it.
But then
Like right and wrong, is there really such a thing? And you start veering off from there.
As clear facts, I think there are. I think it may take some research, it may take some exploration, but I think one can see the actuality of a situation.
Okay,
You know, the
I'll
what
try
is,
harder.
the what is,
Um,
the actual what is, not what we would like it to be.
Absolutely.
So if there's no me and I'm really just a dream character in this dream that's unfolding, you know, how can there really be free will and operating as a doer? But even in the context of that, if I take myself to be a dream character in a dream that's unfolding moment by moment, the character may operate one way or another. So the other day, I'm sitting here trying to have some Zoom sessions, and this apartment building is in a big horseshoe. And so all noise and sounds has like an echo chamber. And I'm sitting here, and for 45 minutes, a guy is walking around with a leaf blower, making an infernal reaction. And so I got up and I go out there and I'm watching this guy, and I was really ticked off about it. And I'm watching this guy, and at the end of the 45 minutes, he has about a handful of leaves that he's accumulated from all this noise and racket. I went out on the balcony, and believe me, I thought of trying to get his attention, but he couldn't hear me because of the leaf blower, right? So I sat down, I said to myself, what am I going to do? And I wrote an email to the management. And I just said, for the last 45 minutes, I've been trying to work from my apartment, and this guy has been blowing the leaves, disturbing the peace in the middle of the morning. I'm working, other people may be trying to relax. And at the end of the thing, he had about a handful of debris. I said, what about using a rake and a shovel and a pail? And that was it. And you know what? The next week, the guy didn't show up with a blower. He had a rake and a pail. And so that was the way this dream character handled a dream event in this dream reality. Now I don't know, was it a choice on my part, or was it just an assessment, a clear-eyed assessment of what was going on, and how I don't know how this dream character could read one line or another line. You know, what script do you want to play? The irate,
Yeah.
the irate apartment dweller, or a concerned tenant expressing on behalf of other tenants? I don't know. It's complicated.
No, but you said before it wasn't so complicated.
It's not so complicated when you pause for a moment and don't act reactively.
That's the point.
That's the.
And my point was that you could have sat there and thought, well, am I acting out of fear to send the email? Am I acting out of anger? You could overanalyze it to the point where you'll just be unable to do anything. And you don't want to do that. I mean, obviously, that's not a good thing.
That's right. That's right. Well, that's why Bernie said before, it's not about analyzing the situation. It's about observing, seeing the what is of the situation, including the what is of your reaction.
Then it could be that, maybe subliminally, you're reacting to the fact that, damn it, I got to do something, and you're getting upset that you have to do something. People should have enough common sense not to do stuff like that. Now I have to either write an email, or I got to make a telephone call, or I got to stop what I'm doing to take care of this annoying factor, and so on and so forth. So you're almost getting as upset that you have to do something rather than the thing that's doing it that's making you upset.
So then that means you have to even witness that.
You got to really do some digging.
You just witness that. You just observe that. You don't even have to analyze it. You just see, look at this. Now what's arising is an annoyance that I even have to be bothered with this thing. So everything is grist for the witness.
but just a second. But Ugo, in the pausing for a second and not reacting, knee-jerk reaction, I didn't, I felt that I had taken a right action. Once
Ah,
I sent the email, I didn't have any regret about it, and I didn't have any anticipation. I
right.
thought I had done what the situation called for, and I wasn't even invested in the results. When I saw the guy out there with the rake and the shovel, I was happily surprised. But I wasn't, looking out every day and seeing, is that so-and-so going to show up with the leaf blower? I felt that I had done the action that the moment called for.
Right.
And so I
No,
was done with it. I was completely done with it.
I absolutely agree with you that a lot of the upset that comes in me is that procrastinating, taking action. It's, I'm annoyed, I'm finding all kind of excuses, but at the bottom of it is that I'm for whatever way, I'm afraid, I'm this, I'm that, whatever the hell you want to do it, but it's that it's not taking action. And I've noticed that when I do something, and I take the action, almost immediately there's a relief.
Yes.
And I've done some. Well, is it and upon reflection, you look, you said, look, I've done the best that I can. And then at some point said, can't do anything more. I've done the best I can. And there's a relief in that.
Yes. Yes.
A lot of that anxiety goes away when I can get to the point of I can't successfully do it all the time, but when I can really see the significance of it. Like you're saying, Paul.
That's why I think it's so important, when actually Krishnamurti says the seeing is the doing. And that's why to be able to have the clarity to see what the right action is in that moment. Then there's the doing. Then it's followed by doing. And you're free of it because it was right action. And that action didn't come from a me, from a personal agenda, from a fear, or from a desire.
Yep.
It was just clear. This is what had to be done in that moment.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think it was interesting to me, this particular segment of Nisargardatta, when the guy says to him, what am I expected to do? And he says, there is nothing to do, just be. No climbing mountains and sitting in caves. I do not even say be yourself, since you don't know yourself, but just be, having seen that you are neither the outer world of perceivables. Remember, because he said, whatever you may perceive, you are not what you perceive. So having seen that you are neither the outer world of perceivables, nor the inner world of thinkables, that you are neither the body nor the mind, just be. And that means just be in the now, because he also says here, let go of the thought of the past and let go of the projecting into the future and be in the timeless now. So I think the best that we can do is have an awareness when we're not there, to have an awareness when we're projecting into the future or dwelling on to the past. And we can stop, we can see. And at that moment, be able to pull the plug, or the plug gets pulled, because the seeing is the doing. So just be. And probably it's really important not to even have this image of enlightenment.
Right.
Not even to carry that concept around. But just see, can there be life in the now? And when there's not living in the now, when there's living in the past or living in the future. Keep it really small and simple, and let it grow by itself. Yeah, here he says it. The guy says to him, if you could tell me what I shall become, it may help me to watch over my development. And he says, how can anybody tell you what you shall become when there is no becoming? You merely discover what you are. All molding oneself to a pattern is a grievous waste of time. Think neither of the past nor of the future. Just be. How can I just be? Changes are inevitable. Changes are inevitable in the changeful. But you are not subject to them. You are the changeless background against which changes are perceived. So there's changes in the changeful. All that's going on is constantly changing. But you are not that. You are the background upon which change occurs. He does such a beautiful job, I think,
Yeah.
of keeps pointing you to your true nature, to who we truly are. So,
Well, we've come to the end of another delightful hour. So I hope everyone has a good week.
yep. And hopefully we'll meet again next week. In the meantime, stay well and stay now.
Hi, Rosine.
Thank you very much.
Hi,
Oh,
great to hear you
good.
guys.
Good
No,
night.
good night.
Bye. Good
See you all
night.
Okay.
soon.
See you
Chip,
all.
Chip
soon.
says
Yeah.
good, Chip,
See you next
Chip
time.
says good night and thank you.
Oh, thank you, Chip, dear. Thank you.